If your relationship with money is feast or famine, or maybe it's up and down. I mean, money comes in, it doesn't stay long, and then it goes out. I mean, there's more month left than what you have in your bank account. Then this video is for you. It has your name on it because this cycle of up and down is a pattern or an identity that you have been living with or associating with for way too long. And the good news is you can break it. You can break the up and downs, the feast and famine, by doing this one simple thing. But before I get going with my teaching, I'm Tanya. Welcome back to all my regulars. Oh, I love your company. Thank you for being here today. It's actually Sunday, and I had this idea to hop on quickly and make this video so that you can start to live a life of neutrality, a life where the economic feeling of insecurity leaves you when you do the following. And for those of you who are new, welcome to my channel. It's all about helping you master your mind so you can master your life. All right, let's get going with this teaching. So I wanted to share with you my teaching today that's based actually on Neville Goddard's teachings, and it is to do with your self-concept, your identity. Now, I don't know if you realize it, that we have many identities, many different facets to our current concept of ourselves that we tend to parlay in throughout the day. Okay, we tend to parlay. For example, a good example will be that if I go home to Australia and visit my parents, I am not that astute businesswoman helping my clients make millions. Oh no, you wouldn't recognize me. The moment I walk into my parents' home, I shrivel, I shrink, because my dad really scared the living daylights out of me growing up in our home. And of course, I enter into a state of being a victim, of being a scared little girl. But the moment I leave the home, I'm back into this a different version of myself. And I want to remind you that there are different identities associated with our self-image. And so we do have an identity, I do believe, when it comes to running our businesses, okay? And you can change that identity. So right now, if your current identity is one of failure in your business, you can change that. We do have a certain identity that shows up in our relationships, with possibly an SP or with our friends and family. And if you don't like your current identity in your relationship, then change it. You can also rewrite the script on that. But are you aware that you also have an identity when it comes to money? You have an identity associated with money, and this could be one of struggle. This could be one of hardship. And this identity needs to be changed if you're going to break the cycle or the pattern to do with feast and famine when it comes to money. And a good example of this is that I grew up in a home where my dad hadn't done the work to release some of his money blocks. And so he grew up in the Depression in London, where times were tough and there wasn't much money, let alone much work. And so my dad always had a poverty consciousness growing up. I grew up in South Africa, then Hong Kong, then we moved to Australia. My dad's always been from a place of lack and limitation. He would often say, go carefully with my money, and careful, it's running out. And of course, my dad would always be in fear and flight around money. Now, growing up in an environment like that, that really did program me, and I don't know if you can relate, it programmed me to feel very unsafe around money. whether I'm receiving it, whether I'm spending it, whether I'm giving it away, or just enjoying it. I always walked on eggshells around spending or just enjoying money. And I realized recently that this is an identity associated with the subject called money. And if I'm going to change this identity around money, then I need to go within and write her, feel her, and become her. And that's what I did. I wrote out a new self-image script to do with my identity, to do with money. And so I have been assuming a different identity to do with money. And the results have been phenomenal, have been outstanding. Now, it wasn't an overnight success. I mean, the floodgates didn't just open up and money flew in. But what I'm noticing is, because I've done the inner work, and if you would like some help with that, then please book a call with me. I'll share the exact template I use to help shift my identity around money. I'm happy to share it with you. Just book a call. And so what I did was, I noticed initially how things started to shift and change. Because I assumed a different identity and stayed there, and this identity is one of peace and safety and abundance, I noticed that the old thoughts, when even spending money at the grocery store, weren't there anymore. I was actually very peaceful spending money. I was very peaceful when I was making donations. I was very peaceful when out and about, having fun with my girlfriends, enjoying ourselves, and paying for a few things. And I realized is that really we've got to look at our identity, and our identity is in different rooms of a house, okay? Different rooms of a house. And think about it, a house has different rooms in it. Could be 4 bedrooms, a living room, a kitchen, a couple of bathrooms, a garage. But each room has a certain energy about it, right? The garage has a different feeling than the living room, right? You can definitely say yes to that. So you've got to understand that the identity inside is in a garage is different to that of a living room. And so we have to make sure that we don't spend too much time in the garage, but rather in the living room, where it's warm, it's safe, it's fun, it's relaxing. And of course, that's a different identity, right? So you have to do the inner work to assume this new identity around money. And you have to do it for a little while. Assume it and behave differently around money. And then you'll notice the shift. You will suddenly see evidence on the outside of how this assumption is changing. Think about it. Years of conditioning, both genetically and environmentally, changing years of it just by making a decision to assume a different identity around money and persist in that assumption until it becomes a fact. Leave your comments if this is resonating with you, and book a call and I'll show you exactly the formula. Bye for now.